Hello everyone and welcome to Payalagam. My name is Sandeep and today we're going to discuss the difference between written and spoken Tamil. Now I'm not talking about Sanskritized Tamil or Englishized Tamil, which some people call Tanglish, but I'm talking about Tamil that Tamilians speak, and there are many different types of Tamil that Tamilians actually speak. But why so many differences? It's important to know that language is very diverse. It always changes according to the region, the geographical region, the environment, the work that people do, and these things have a huge impact on how a language is spoken or written. And these are called dialects. Every region of Tamil Nadu has its own dialect, and sometimes some villages are different from their neighboring villages in their dialect. Now the thing about dialect is that every language has it. No matter if you look at Chinese or you look at German or you look at French or Spanish or American or English. American is one form of English. It's very important to know it is a dialect, and you find that England itself has so many different types of Englishes and dialects. The process of creating dialects can be said to have been natural, and no one knows really, do dialects come first or do languages come first? These are studies and questions in the area of linguistics. But there is a distinction to Tamil which is unique and not very common in this world, and that does make it a little bit more complicated, and that's called diglossia. What is diglossia? Diglossia, also known as Panmori Vadakku or Irattai Mori Vadakku. Diglossia happens when a word begins to have diverse forms of the way it is said, and that's exactly what diglossia is. Diglossia. Di means two and glossia, words. And this is different from dialect, because dialect is only spoken by certain people in a certain region. However, diglossia is created when the same people, all people who speak that particular language, know how to say this particular word in more than one way. Let me give you an example. And this particular example has been very often brought up by students learning in Payalagam and outside. The numbers 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hear these again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, very often if you go and ask a Tamilian, how do you say the numbers 1 to 5? They will say for you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's hear the differences one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this kind of thing creates quite a complexity to the person who's trying to learn Tamil, because the same word is said more than one time. And that means you ask one person, they'll tell you one thing, and you ask another person, they tell you another thing. One person you ask, how do you say the number 5? They will tell you anju, and another person they will tell you aind. Which one is right? Both are right. That's the point of diglossia. Both actually are right. None of them is more right than the other. They are both very much part of the Tamil language. Along with that is the colloquial. Every different part of Tamil Nadu, and then Sri Lanka and Malaysia and Singapore and people in Switzerland, people in America who speak Tamil, they each speak Tamil slightly different from the others. Now this creates quite a complexity to those who are trying to learn Tamil for the first time. Now why this diglossia? Why does diglossia happen? In truth, it's not very clear as to why it happens, but one thing is very clear. The more ancient the language, the bigger chance that diglossia happens. Now and it has to be spoken by people continuously over that period of time. A language like Sanskrit has lasted, or Latin have lasted more than 1,500 years. However, they are not regularly spoken by the people, so the chance of changing the words or having new forms of the same word is not necessarily possible. It tends to happen to old languages that have many different forms, that are culturally spoken in many different ways and continue to be spoken in the same way it was spoken very much long time ago. The only other few languages in the classical language, the only two languages that actually make it with diglossia is Mandarin and I've also been told by some friends that Telugu also has diglossia. It suffices to say that diglossia definitely makes language learning a little bit more complicated, because while one form might be more used in certain spaces, the other one is used in certain other spaces. For instance, ஒன்று, இரண்டு, மூன்று, நான்கு, ஐந்து. The 5 numbers 1 to 5 are used a lot in written, but not really used in spoken. The spoken are usually ஒன்று, இரண்டு, மூன்று, நாலு, and அஞ்சு. However, on the other hand, when you want to say twi, you have to say iru, which comes from இரண்டு, or I, which comes from 5, or mu, which comes from tri, or na, which comes from 4, quadruple. And when you want to join these, the double effect, right? Irattai, both, or iruvar, 2 people. And then you need to know the root of the written format as well, and you can't just learn ஒன்று, இரண்டு, மூன்று, நாலு, and அஞ்சு. So it makes it slightly more difficult for the learner, because the learner has to learn both types. However, that makes it also very beautiful on its own. One can call it the occupational hazard of trying to learn a very, very ancient language. Now, I'd like to point out here that the Tamil that we are learning, in fact, in the beginning of this podcast, I had called it Thuya Tamil, literally meaning pure Tamil. Now, many other teachers have pointed out to me that Thuya Tamil, then pure Tamil, would then mean that there is an impure Tamil, which is in fact false. And I'd like to state here that that is correct. There is no real Thuya Tamil. It is an imagination that there could be a pure Tamil, because that would then make many other Tamils impure. We do distinguish between words from other languages that are not in Tamil, and we do not use them while writing or reading and when we speak it correctly. However, on the other hand, you can always make a word from a different language Tamilified, Tamil akkuvadu. It's a verb to actually make something Tamil. For instance, the word budget. The word budget is from English, but we still use it in Parliament today in Tamil as well. Some people say cycle instead of midivandi, which is the actual Tamil word for cycle, bicycle. You will find that the same thing happens in other languages too. For instance, in the language German, the word chatten is coming from to chat. And chatten, this in form, is used to make a verb. So chatten, and then ich will chatten, and I want to chat. Now chatten has actually become a verb in German. It's German, it's Deutschified. And so the same way Tamil is also able to do the same thing. There is, however, an attempt to remove or reduce the usage of certain words that are sourced from Sanskrit, and this is a step taken by the self-respect movement in order to not to purify Tamil, but actually to bring Tamil more to the Tamil people. This action is taken actually not against the language on its own, but actually in order to reduce Brahmanism, reduce the casteism and the hierarchies that Tamil is wrought, Tamil people are wrought with today, and trying to remove these and bring an equal society. You'll find diglossia in many, many different places. For instance, veindum is to want. It's one form of to want. It is a need form of want. Yanakku tannir vendum, I want water. But you can also say vendum as venum, which is yanakku tannir venum, I want water. So the same thing can be said as venum, and the same thing can be said as veindum, and they are both correct. And in this case, unlike ஒன்று, இரண்டு, மூன்று, நாலு, அஞ்சு, and ஒன்று, இரண்டு, மூன்று, நான்கு, ஐந்து, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, venum and veindum are also written. Both are written. Now, what's the difference between the dialects and diglossia? In this case, let me explain to you. Let's use this word veindum. In veindum, you also have its diglossia venum, but then the dialects are veno, vena, veno, vana, vano. All of these are dialects to veindum and venum. Venum and veindum are diglossias. Vana, vandum, venum, vandum, vendum, vendum, all of them are dialects and not diglossias. In Pailagam, we'll be learning diglossias as well as some dialects. We will get involved with dialects, not too much, but we will definitely get involved with diglossias and learn both forms so that we can, to the best of our abilities, speak Tamil to whomever we meet. As for why we try to not use so much Sanskrit words, I will explain that to you in the next coming episodes. Look out for them in the next podcast. Look out for them in the classes that you join. And please subscribe and help us, support us. Join the Patreon account, join the community, and become a member of Pailagam. Until the next time, thank you very much. Those of you who prefer a bit more visual learning and not just podcasts, feel free to go to Pailagam on Patreon, and you can find the documents with PDF files of the lessons that we learn in the podcast in a textbook form, and you can download it.